Hello, everybody. Welcome to Amar's Game Chat. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe. I am Amar, and in case you did not know, Nintendo Today announced that they will be hosting a Donkey Kong Bonanza Nintendo Direct on June 18th, 2025 at 6 a.m. PT, 9 a.m. ET, and it will last approximately 15 minutes. So, the most similar Nintendo Direct that we had to this most recently was the Mario Kart World Direct, which also lasted around 15 minutes, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, we have an official Donkey Kong Bonanza Nintendo Direct happening very, very soon in less than 48 hours. And I just want to let you all know that I want to do some predictions for it, just to talk about some of my thoughts on the game before we go into the direct. Some of the things that I think may be talked about here, some of the things that I don't think will be happening in this direct, or maybe even in the game in general. And that stuff. We have around 15 minutes of content focused solely on Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is a lot of time to spend on the game. We don't really know much about it. We know obviously about like the different layered systems, like the sub layers that you can go through, and each of them are like a different environment. We know about Void Co, which is like the enemies, like the main bosses in the game. But we don't really know much more than that. Obviously, we've seen like the main mechanics through like Nintendo Treehouse, where you can like break down walls and cliffs, and you can pick up rocks and throw them and everything. And like the main like collectibles like bananas and golden bananas, stuff like that. But we don't really know much about the story. We don't really know much about any of the characters outside of Donkey Kong and his little rock buddy. And then I guess we've seen Cranky Kong show up here and there, but I just want to talk about it a little bit. In case you did not know, there is this direct in less than 48 hours, which is very cool. Um, I'm personally very excited for it, just because again we haven't seen much of Donkey Kong Bonanza in a while. As of tomorrow, so hopefully if I post this today, as of June 17th, 2025, we will be just 1 month away from the game's launch. So it is kind of interesting to see how fast we are coming towards the game, and we haven't really seen much about it. Obviously, this will be our major blowout for Donkey Kong, and we're gonna see a lot more of the game, and just in general, just find out a lot more about Donkey Kong Bonanza. Um, I have an out there prediction about how it might connect to like Mario Kart World, but yeah. So I'm rambling on a little bit, but let's get right into it. I think that'll be very cool. So yeah, let's get right to the discussion part and like the predictions for the direct. So yeah, it is approximately 15 minutes long, so that does offer a lot of time just to talk about Donkey Kong Bonanza. I've seen a lot of like discussion about how obviously the Mario Kart World Nintendo Direct didn't reveal too much more about the game, and like they were both like this one and that one was like 15 minutes long, but I think that is a little different because we had hours of Treehouse after the reveal of Mario Kart World, so a lot of the stuff that if you didn't watch Treehouse, you would have seen for the first time in that direct. So it did make sense, just, going off that. But we haven't seen as much of Donkey Kong Bonanza. We didn't really see much more of it that's like different from the trailer itself in the Treehouse segments. So I think they're going to have a lot more to talk about here. It's kind of hard to predict for these smaller, game focused Nintendo Directs, just because there's so much they could talk about. If we had like a normal Nintendo Direct and like this was gonna be like a segment of it, we could have probably predicted that we would see like a new character, like a new mechanic showing off, stuff like that. But 15 minutes is a very long time, especially for a game that we haven't really seen much of in over 2 months. So they're gonna have a lot to talk about. If you go on Nintendo today, they've been posting a lot of like the facial expressions and like mini little clips from the game, like showing Donkey Kong like breaking down a wall, maybe collecting a banana, stuff like that. But we haven't really seen much more than what we know about the game, so or what we got from the first trailer and the Treehouse segments. So very, very, there's a lot to talk about here. I do want to start off with like characters, because obviously there's going to be other characters in the game, maybe not playable characters, but just like characters we are familiar with. So we already know about Donkey Kong, we already know about Rambi, we already know about Cranky Kong. those are like the three main returning characters that we have like seen in the game itself. But I do think, characters like Dixie Kong and Diddy Kong and maybe Funky Kong will make appearances in the game. I think it'd be a cool thing to show off in this trailer. I mean, this direct, just because I'm not against, like, Cranky Kong isn't playable. It'd be kind of weird if Cranky Kong was playable in general, but I don't think that the support cast to the Donkey Kong series will be playable in this game, just because it would be. It is obviously like a single player focused game, so you could like introduce like Dixie or Diddy or like Funky Kong as alternative characters to like play as like as a second player, but I just don't think that it would work as well as it like does in like the 2D games, just because there's gonna be so much going on screen. In like you're not necessarily following like one specific character in a 3D game like this, like a 3D platformer open world game like this, open area game like this. So it would be kind of weird to have them as playable and not like be like what Cranky Kong is, where you can go talk to Cranky Kong and he'll give you like maybe some support, like not support, but like information about the area you're in, or like maybe where a secret is or something like that. Maybe Diddy Kong or Dixie Kong can like serve as like a special character where they can help you find certain items, or maybe they sell some items to you. Um, Maybe Funky Kong helps you. Like in Super Mario Odyssey, like there was a character that can like tell you where like certain moons are. Maybe Funky Kong will show you or tell you like a general area where like a special golden banana bunch or golden banana is, which is which would be pretty cool. But I don't think they're gonna have like a major presence in this trailer. If they if they do what I'm saying with like Funky Kong, I think they will talk about that here as just a small little like tidbit, like, oh, Funky Kong is in the game. You can go talk to him, and he will help you find a golden banana. Or after you finish the game, well, I won't really talk about post game, I don't think, but like after you finish the game, you can go to him, and he will tell you about there's a whole new moon that no, I mean, there's a whole new banana that's shown up. Like there's a bunch of new bananas that fell from the sky or something, and you have to go find them. But again, I think that the support character that like I apologize for that. I think that the support character that we will see in the game itself will be Cappy, like the Cappy equivalent will be like the Mini Rock. I'm not sure the Mini Rock really has a name. Um, I was going through like the website a little bit earlier just to get all the information I needed for something like this, just because again, we are, over 2 months for since like we last saw the game in like some major form. So there's been a lot that's been going on. Um like obviously the Switch 2 is already released and everything. So there hasn't really been like a major push for DK yet. Supposedly when, after probably after this direct, this will become like their main focus for marketing and that stuff. So that'd be very fun. But I don't think the little rock creature has a name. There's been some, possible, rumors of some sort that that or like leaks that have like kind of talked about what this little rock may be. I'm not really going to go into that just because um I'm not sure if that is what this little rock is, but I do think there is going to be other Mario characters, like Mario series characters that show up here. It would make sense for like not like Mario to show up, but like Pauline, for instance, to like show up here, just because obviously Pauline and Donkey Kong have like such close connections in like the grand scheme of everything. So it would make sense. You know, there's obviously, again, some stuff that's been talked about the game already, but it would make sense for Pauline to show up here again, maybe as a support character, maybe as something a little bit more. Um, you know, it obviously also depends on when this game like takes place in the general timeline of Donkey Kong, I guess you could say. You know, would DK even really be connected to Pauline at this point. Who knows? Cranky Kong's in the game, so I guess that's probably a given that he would be. But still, I think characters like Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong, Pauline, um, Cranky Kong, Funky Kong, Lanky Kong, stuff like that. They all have a chance to appear in this game and just like be like support NPCs that you can find out that you can find throughout everything. Maybe like at us like a maybe in like a special like part of the game they all like join you and like they all help you fight the special boss in the game, a special boss in the game, one of the Void Co bosses. Maybe they all like combine at once. You have to defeat all of them like in a royale, not royale, like a roulette. I guess it could also be a roulette type of like thing. But I think the other character I'm kind of missing on, like I just haven't really talked about, was King K. Rool. Of the characters we know about. And there's been a lot of discussion about if King K. Rool would appear in this game. I think it'd be kind of cool if he does. But I'm not really hedging anything on it just because I don't think it would make sense, if maybe King K. Rool is like the ultra boss, like that's the final boss of the game. He's like been like pulling the strings to a certain extent here. And like that'd be kind of fun. That'd be a fun way to like not throwback, but like be a throwback to the older Donkey Kong games. But I'm not really sure. It does feel like it would be kind of weird to do that when you are introducing a whole new cast of DK enemies and DK bosses that you can defeat. I will say that the new characters that we see are kind of they kind of are reminiscent a little bit of King K. Rool, just like visually I think. But so it'd be cool to see like a King K. Rool redesign with like the new designs for the characters. But we'll have to see on that. I think we're gonna see older DK characters, like DK characters from throughout the series appear in this game, but I don't really think that they will have like major roles outside of something like maybe Pauline having some sort of major, like maybe Pauline's natural step through like showing up in Super Mario Odyssey and so on and so forth, or like Diddy Kong showing up and like being like a major player in this game, stuff like that. But I just I can't see it, just because it is a little different than like a 2D platformer where all the characters can, like there's a mechanic in the game where like all the characters are able to just stay on the screen at once. You're able to work together. I think in like an open world type game like this, we don't really see this in like, I guess the other comparable game besides like Odyssey would be 3D World, like Bowser's Fury 3D World. And even then, they don't really allow for 2 players. The second player is pretty much like a collaborative asset to your character, like to you when you're playing with, like to the first player if they're playing with Mario. And I think that's kind of what this is going to be. And same thing with like Cappy and stuff like that. I think, no, but since it's not like a platformer of some like less like focused, I don't think they're gonna be able to do 2 players in the same way where like you're able to just roam around and play with another player. They can go do their own thing and you can do your own thing. But I would love to be wrong about that. I would love that you can actually like change from DK and like play as another Kong, or another character that we haven't met yet or something like that. But I'm not thinking about that as like a major like thing that like I would predict and I know what's gonna happen or something like that. We've seen a lot of the game in terms of like the mechanics, I feel. We've seen, you can break through walls. I think not every wall is breakable, but a lot of the walls are breakable. You can like play around with the world. The website itself says break on through this truly destructive adventure. So I'm assuming a lot of the world will be heavily destructive and you can just play around, and there's obviously like golden bananas hidden everywhere and stuff like that. But so I think that's probably like the main thing in this game, where like you can craft the world, and to a certain extent, and to get to like certain locations and everything. um, so I don't really know if we'll see too much more on that end. It would be kind of weird if they introduce like another major mechanic outside of, just this destructive world. There's been like a lot of discussion, and I keep like going on different tangents here, but I was thinking about this a little earlier, like in the week or like a couple of days ago, but there was like a little bit of a little bit of a thought that I think this is honestly what they were building on in 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, because those like there is destructive land masses in Bowser's Fury that you can like run through, um, with Plessis. So I think that's kind of where this is like somewhat based off of. Um, I think the assumption is that this is being made by at least part of the 3D Mario team, at Nintendo. So I think, if they were the ones that, helped develop Bowser's Fury, I guess you can also say like, I believe Nintendo Software Technology has also helped with that, and like the One Up team at Nintendo helped with that. But if that like those certain if that like that general conglomerate of teams was working on this game, I could definitely see that like they went from Bowser's Fury to making Donkey Kong Bonanza, and this is what they really wanted to do. Like Bowser's Fury was a little bit of like a tease of what the next game that they wanted to make would be. Um, and yeah, I can definitely see that here. I think it was a really fun thing. I'm glad that they're evolving on it, just because I think there's a lot that they can do, with this. Like there's a short video on the website where you see Donkey Kong like break through a whole cliff, and pretty much like terraform it into like nothing. Like, and you get like little rocks from that. You get like little banana, like, I guess they're like orbs of some sort, but get all that. I think that's just really cool. And I love that about this game, and I'm excited to see it more, once we see the direct and maybe a new trailer for it. But still, I think that's just really cool. But I think that is gonna be the main mechanic here, being able just to break through the world and find all these little secrets. And we've already seen that like they did bring back some of the, I wouldn't say like secret levels, but like the special levels that you can find in games like Super Mario Odyssey, that are like small little tidbit, like small little sections that you can just maybe find like a golden moon, or like a moon in, or like in this case a golden banana in. And I'm excited for those. I'm very excited to see more of that, and just how this team and how this kind of evolves from Bowser's Fury and Odyssey and everything like that. I think that's just gonna be really, really cool. But for new things that I think we could see here, it is kind of hard again to predict what I exactly think we will see from this direct, just because there is so much that they could do. We may only have ever seen, up to this point, like the top layer of what this game actually is, and like there's a lot more that's just hiding for us to find out. And that'd be actually pretty cool. I'm already very excited for this game, so if they introduce something like really like super new and it's like super different that we haven't seen yet, I think that'd be pretty cool. um if they, I don't know, like, it's kind of weird because we've only seen like 3 different levels, so I guess they could like have like something different for each level, and that's how they introduce something new. Like, what if we have, we've already seen like some certain areas where you can like that like play as like a 2D platformer, um, and I think that's like kind of reminiscent of what we saw in like Odyssey, where they had the mini sections that were literally just 2D sections where you can play like as like a 2D version of certain levels, and I think that's really cool. But I think that there is, it'd be really cool if maybe like going back to like the characters point, maybe each character you find like a special character on each level, and that's like they have like a special mechanic they like add to that specific level. Like maybe if you meet Diddy Kong on like a certain level, you get his jetpack or something like that. I think that'd be kind of cool. um Stuff like that. And that's how you interact with the characters, opposed to them just being like something, it's like characters that you just talk to and they give you maybe like new information on like a certain area or that layer you're on, something like that. I think it's just all. I think there's just a lot that they can do. Um, but yeah, again, it's hard to predict because there's just so much that they could show off in this direct. Um, like I think the one thing we're missing is the rock mechanic in this game. Like what that really is gonna be. Like I'm assuming the rock is gonna be something very similar to Cappy, and I was mentioning that as like a second player, like where they like that's what your second player would be if you are playing two players. But I think that is gonna be the main like change. Like we didn't know about Cappy when Super Mario Odyssey was revealed. Well, we knew about Cappy, but we didn't know what Cappy did in the initial Super Mario Odyssey reveal in January 2017. I think that is going to be what we see here as well. Like there is something very interesting that like maybe you can go to alternate universe if like you collect enough little pieces of like a banana or something, like, and you make an ultra banana, and then you can go like an alternate universe. That's very out there. I doubt that it's actually going to happen, but I'm assuming like the mechanic that allow you to progress through like the game through the story will be like you find enough bananas, and then maybe you're able to like somehow break down like this huge wall, and it will like lead you up to like the next layer or something like that. And that's probably going to also be connected to the rock, but there is just something I feel like is associated with the little rock that we just haven't seen yet. Could it be maybe, I don't know. I mean, the rock does look a little weird. Like it'll mind control you or something, and I think that's kind of interesting. Like if there's like some sort of mind control part of the game where DK isn't like able to do certain things, but the rock allows him to do certain things, like give him a certain power, and stuff like that. I think that'd be kind of cool, but there's just so much to just talk about and to think about in the context of this game. I think, just like general predictions now, we will see more of the Void Co. I think that's a pretty easy prediction. We only know about 3 characters so far. I think we will see maybe one more. I think there'll be like 5 or 6 members of this little, villainous group of sorts. But I think we will see at least one more here. Something that like they can add to the website, in like a Void Co section. These are the characters that you're gonna be fighting against, and I'm like, you have to like defeat to get to certain levels. I mean, there could be 10 Void Co members, because I do remember watching Treehouse and seeing like there's like 10 different sub levels, which is very cool. Again, I think that's gonna be like a underrated part of the game where like there's gonna be so many different locales that you could see. Obviously some that replicate probably the old DK games, just because I think that makes sense. But there's gonna be a lot of new terrains that we're able to see DK in and all that. I think that's just gonna be really cool to see. I doubt there are gonna be any similar ones. Obviously there might be like one where that combines like all like the different terrains that we see, but like we already know there's gonna be an ice level, there's gonna be like a water level, there's gonna be like a grassy terrain level, stuff like that. Obviously we know the mining level, so I think it's all just really cool. There is, I guess, one more thing I guess I can talk about here, and that is if I can remember what I was about to say. I don't know. I mean, there's just so much to talk about. But I think the last thing I just want to talk about is, what I think like the main gimmick of the game will be. And I mentioned that would be like the little rock. But I do think, maybe the little rock like gives you the ability to go to each area. Like I already mentioned, like you have the little rock, you're able to break down the walls, stuff like that. But maybe that is like the way that, you know, you're able to defeat some of the characters. Like with Cappy, it was like one major mechanic. Like you're able to transform into different enemies, different characters, different objects, stuff like that. But I wonder if like you get different, like each time you beat a Void Co member, you're able to get a new mechanic. That's like a progression system. Obviously, like you can't do a certain area without, or I guess you could, but like it could be difficult to do certain areas without certain mechanics. Um, Again, like I mentioned earlier, maybe you get like a jetpack from like one of the other characters, but maybe you're able to get like a glide of some sort with the rock. Maybe the rock turns into something that's not necessarily a rock. Stuff like that. I think that'd be kind of cool. But um, that is all I really have for today. Prediction wise, there wasn't really like a set predictions. I just wanted to talk about the direct for a little bit. Just because, you know, again, it is hard to predict. Based on what we saw in the first trailer, you know, there's so much that I guess you could say like they could bring back some of like the creativity that we saw in, you know, not creativity, but some like the different mechanics we saw in the 2D games already, that were like extremely creative in my opinion, and like bring them here. You know, some of like the different locale stuff like that. But I think after the direct, we'll have a lot better of um, a image of what this game is. Um, More so than we even have now, which is gonna be really cool just to see happen in real time. But yeah, that is all I really have. I'm very, very excited for this direct. I'm very excited for the game. Again, by the time this is uploaded, we'll be just a little bit over, like a day over a month until the game launches. Well, technically, right now, if we were to jump 1 month to the 16th, there will already be people playing it because obviously time zones. So we are pretty much already less than a month away from the launch of the game. Um, but yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention the one other prediction I had that I even started this whole video with, and that is that I think there's gonna be some connectivity between Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World. You know, obviously we've seen the new like design for Donkey Kong in Mario Kart World already. You know, we saw that obviously Mario Kart World does have like different costumes for different characters. And Donkey Kong did get kind of left out. He only has, you know, he has the least amount of costumes of I think any of the major characters in the game. Him and Pauline. So that's I think that's also why I was alluding to Pauline a little bit. Maybe Pauline does have like a bigger little, I mean, a little bit of like a bigger role in this game, just because I think it'd be cool if they got like new costumes that are based on Donkey Kong Bonanza. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe like if you have Donkey Kong Bonanza, like there's some kind of connectivity between the two, or like if you have Mario Kart World and then you get Donkey Kong Bonanza, there's like some different like connectivity between the games where maybe you're able to get a DK costume early. You know, if you just have the game, like they give you a DK, like it's like maybe they won't keep it forever, but maybe it would be like an early purchase bonus where, you know, you're immediately able to start playing with a new DK costume in Mario Kart World and just racing with it. I just wanted to mention it just because I thought that'd be pretty cool, just to have that like a little bit of connectivity between them. I think like if that were ever to happen, this would be like the perfect place to mention it, just because, you know, the Switch 2 just came out, so you know you're able to still cross market, you know, between the next big game and the previously big game, or your launch game. So I just thought that'd be cool if they did that. It wasn't like, it's not like a serious prediction, I guess, but I still think it'd be pretty fun if they were to do that. But yeah, you know, I'm cutting in right here before the end of the video. So again, let past Amar tell you all the outro. So I'll see you later. That is all I have for you all today. I hope you all enjoyed this little predictions video. I hope you all enjoy the direct. I will record my reaction to the direct. It's just all the different mechanics that we see and everything. But until then, I hope you all do what makes you happy, because that rhymes with my previous name, Generic Happy, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. I hope you all are very excited for Donkey Kong Bonanza. We are just 1 month away.